computer. And I will do a little intro, Kelly. So let's just start right and get into this. Kelly Sotherton, Olympic athlete, just all around amazing person, coach, mentor. You're doing a lot of stuff right now that we're going to get into. But first of all, just thanks for giving me some of your time. How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. It's cold, hence this, in my own house. But I'm good, thank you, Nick. I'm well.
Good. So what the format of this, I think I ran it through when we saw each other. I'm going to break this down into 3 periods because of the
Yeah.
hockey. So when we're going to go right back into the beginning and talk about in the first period what it was like. In the second period, we'll move into what happened, and then in the final period, what life is like now. And I'm sure we're going to probably have a little bit of overtime. And I know you are a hockey fan, because I've been trying to figure out how long we've known each other, and it's over 30 years.
It would be 30 years. I was that person who used to cheer, give us a ah. What a sado. Yeah, so I was that person behind you guys up in the stands to go, come on, Raiders. So
Yeah.
like when I was young, obviously I'm younger than you. So yeah.
Yeah, you are younger than me. But you know what? Thinking about it, I was a kid on the Isle of Wight too. So why don't we
Yeah.
start? Why don't we start the first period? Let's drop the puck. Okay, I'm going to time 20 minutes because I haven't been very good at timing. And we'll time a 20-minute period. And here we go. Starting now, dropping the puck. And Kelly, let's do that. Let's talk about what was life like growing up on the Isle of Wight for Kelly Southern.
As you know, the Isle of Wight, it's quite an insular place. Even though it's only a few miles from the mainland, England, it's still kind of worlds apart from everything else. It's still a little bit, still a bit behind, probably, still is. But the great thing is there was so much freedom, and I think that's just the generation and the time. So, once you left your home at 8 o'clock and wanted to go to school, I probably didn't see my mum until 8 o'clock at night. So it was like there was freedom. So I think in some respects, really fortunate to have grown up like in the 80s and early 90s there, because like I said, freedom was the word. I could do whatever I wanted, within reason with my friends. It was, there was no technology. You went out and played, or you found something to do. It was always up to no good. So, when something new came to the island, we'd all jump on it. We would go to the arcade. We'd be down the beach. We'd be under the pier. We'd be in the fields. We'd be up trees. Like just that kind of. I was, as I said, a real fortunate upbringing there to have just that freedom of, like to express myself. And on the other flip side is I come from a council estate, so a single parent family, no money, everything's on tick. So basically from the catalogue, my mum had a couple of jobs, still couldn't make ends meet. So like I went out without a lot, but I didn't really know that I was missing out on that materialistic stuff because I had such a richness in with friends and being out and doing whatever I wanted. Yeah, my socks and shoes and clothes had holes in, but at the end of the day I didn't really care. So so that was kind of my start in life. I think it was a good a humble upbringing. I didn't care for much. Good pair of trainers, obviously, because obviously my athletics career always needed a good pair of trainers, and a good bag, and that was it really. Like, and then when the ice rink was built, I think I was 13, 14, and that just was a game changer for lots of people. All my friends went ice skating, played ice hockey. It was a social point. So yeah, that became quite an instrumental part because I was from Ryde, so I lived up the road. So all my friends were there. I would come back from the mainland from training, meet everyone there, learn to ice skate. It was just, and so that was kind of our social hub until I went to uni, basically.
Yeah.
So
you mentioned growing up in a single in a single parent home, when and that you didn't really feel different in terms of clothes and trainers and stuff. But did you feel different at all? Just not having a dad to bounce stuff around.
I mean, My mum, there was another half for a while. We used to live in a pub for, a few years, but I think you don't know what you don't know, do you, really? So at the time, I probably, and now, did I miss out? Obviously, probably, but would it have made me a better or different person? Who knows? It may have taken the drive out of me to have had two extremely loving parents who gave me everything. I may not have had the drive to go and succeed and do better for myself, but I'll never know that. And I genuinely don't necessarily feel like I missed out, because I had so many other things going on in my life, and I'm an only child as well, so I was alone a lot. And even though I'm not so comfortable with being alone now, I was very much comfortable with playing with my imaginary friends. If my friends couldn't go out, so I was quite creative. So yeah, I didn't know what I didn't know.
Yeah. Did you ever, when you were doing that creative stuff, it brings something up in my mind. When I was a child, I was very much happy. I felt happy, like kind of on the outside looking in.
Yeah,
But did you feel lonely doing that?
not really. I didn't know. I'd like every holiday I'd be off with family, because my family originally come from Essex, East London. So, I had that opportunity to bounce in and out of being busy with friends and family and not. So I probably had very much best of the both worlds. There was always a lot of people in and out of our lives, just because my mum's jobs or where we lived or our neighbours, family or community. So no, no, like people I could sell a sob story, but no, not really.
No, I like I say, I mean, I felt like I was okay with it, and I had a really good imagination.
Yeah.
So I could just kind of get into my head. I wasn't very good at school, but I think it was because when someone would start off with a story, I would just envelop it into my head, and I would go off into this kind of fantasy world. And I feel
Interestingly, no,
now,
Nick. Interestingly, I'm more creative now. So I think I suppressed a lot. I mean, I was creative. Wasn't aware how creative I probably was. So now, when we, in a work sense, and we'll probably get onto that later, my creative juices kind of have really like overflowed, because I never really used them. So, and I was academic, and I was held back a year from school, because I jumped a year, then they held me back, so I wasn't allowed to go to the next school because I was underage by a year. So I was academic if I wanted to be, and so I had choices. So and as you know, if you want to be studious, you have to work quite hard. I didn't really want to do that, if I'm
but
honest.
you mentioned that you had a drive in you. Obviously, you got to where you are, whereas have been as an athlete. When did you notice that little spark, that little drive, or I want to call it like a form of kind of, I don't know what I want to call it yet, but that little spark, where you started to find this determination to excel in athletics or
Oh,
sport?
probably when I used to steal sweets from the shop, and I got, I don't know, I used to be a TV. Um,
Did you know? Because you know what? I had the stickiest fingers when I was a kid.
yeah.
And my mom and dad taught me that stealing was wrong. And I had things, but I would go into the corner shop and I would steal stuff that I didn't need. Or if I went over to your house and you had a really cool toy, I'd nick it, and I would tell my mom that I found it in the backyard or the back alley, and they would just say, "Oh, it's just a phase he's going through." What I know now is that I was looking for a little bit of power somewhere. I felt a little bit powerless in my life. Why did you steal?
Probably because of lack of not having sweets. But in my day, you could have 10 pence and you could buy about 30 sweets. But I used to go and blatantly steal stuff like Cadbury's cream eggs, like from in front of people, and shove them in my pocket. I used to, my mum would find them at home, like stashes of sweets, like, because I would buy them, not necessarily eat them, but stash them. So I was like a hamster. Oh, I might need this. So like,
Mm.
but it was only sweets. It wasn't anything else. I'd never steal from anybody I knew. It was just from the shop. And I got caught one day, and I must have been 6, because in those days you could wander off at 6. I was at the shop, and I'd stolen probably about 6 Cadbury's cream eggs, and I had a red Parker jacket on, and the guy pulled me from my hood and pretended to call the police. and I gave them back and ran home. And so yeah, I don't know, I can't remember ever seeing him again, but I did go to that shop for a while. Obviously I'd stolen. So I think I'd stole other things. I don't know whether it was a power thing. It wasn't because I really wanted them. I think it's because I just could. So but then even when I was really young, so I was 3 or 4 years old, we used to live in a pub, and more on a Sunday morning, I used to get up very early, go down to the bar, get a stool, climb up, go to the Optic with a glass and pour gin and drink it.
Kelly, if I was a psychiatrist,
because I love
doing...
gin. And so, and obviously it was like either Gordon's or Beefeater then. It was only 2 kinds of gin then. And I'm sure it was Beefeater. And I'd just pour it because the man my mum was with, who was like my stepdad, Morris, he lived in a bar, he drank gin and tonic, and I just loved the smell of gin and tonic, even at that age. And I would drink it, and the caretaker, the cleaner, would find me. His name was Jim. He'd find me, or I'd steal the tip jar, go up the shop and buy a box of dairy milk. So I always had it in me. I mean, I don't do that now, but I did it, but I don't know why. And it was a phase, and it stopped. I think when I got caught, it stopped. So I mean, I have inadvertently stolen from a self-service shop, like I put something in my bag and I haven't paid for it and forgotten, but that was, I've gone back to pay for it a couple of times, and sometimes I haven't, but I think everyone's done that. Like I put, oh shit, I haven't paid for that.
Yeah, I would say if I was a psychiatrist or someone would do a deep dive into the stealing part of the stuff, I mean, like I say, we all kind of we shrug it off because we're kids.
Yeah.
But I do know, like, there is something to it. I think that like I say, it was the stealing, it was the act of it. It gave me this kind of little thing, like a bit of warmth in my body. And that's all I really remember. I didn't really need it. And like I say, my mom and dad told me that it was wrong, but I couldn't stop stealing. And I stole a lot, and I didn't grow out of it. And even though I got caught for shoplifting, it was something that was always, I still find myself, don't make sure I pay for stuff,
Yeah.
because there's this kind of, like I say, it's in the act of it. It kind of gave me a little bit of power. So,
Yeah,
so this obviously you're talking about this kind of this drive in you, and you went into your some characteristics as a child. But when did this drive, this spark, like I say, when did athletics and sport kind of become a thing? I hope you're going to say it was when you started watching the ice hockey.
before then, Nick.
Okay.
I think because I've always been athletic from like the age of 5 and 6 in sports day in school, winning, beating the boys. I'd always play with the boys, and I'd always beat them. So I was rough and tumble. I was very much a tomboy, although I still am really. And so I'm not a girly girl, if I can say that. So probably around when I had my first proper race, and I was 10 on the Isle of Wight. That's at Smallbrook Stadium, and I smashed the Isle of Wight record for 800 meters for my age. And I just thought that was when I said I was going to be world champion at 800 and long jump, because I'd won both, and I thought that's what you could do. You could just do random events and be world champ. Well, obviously nearly, but in heptathlon. So it was at 10. And then it wasn't something I would say to myself out loud. It was something that was there. So it was in me. I just knew it was there. So I didn't have to keep reinforcing it by saying it. And I probably only then said it out loud again when I was 26, 25, when somebody asked me. So there was probably about 15 years or so, 20 years where I didn't really acknowledge it out loud, but I knew. So I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't have to keep reinforcing it because it was there. It's really strange. It's like when they say nature nurture, like it was in me. It was in my genes. I mean, none of my family have ever been to that level in sport. There is no one, not even academically or in sport or anything. I'm the first in my family to do a lot of things. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where it came from. It was just an inner drive that was in my DNA that my mum and dad brought to me, and you ask them, well, they would have no idea. So yeah, just in a
I actually remember, I don't know if you remember this, but when we would have met, I would have been 21, 22. So
yeah.
I think there's a 8 year age gap or 6 year age. I'm
I'm
50, I'm almost
46
52.
now. You're
Yeah.
yeah, so we're about 5 or 6.
Yeah. So 6 year age gap. I would have been, so you would have been in your mid-teens. And I remember I was going to university in Winchester, and I was playing hockey on the Isle of Wight, and I was married, and I had this life on the Isle of Wight. But I would go off every morning, catch an early ferry, go to school, do a full day of school, catch the train and the ferry back to the Isle of Wight, and then go on the ice for training. And I started seeing you getting on the ferry early in the mornings or coming back, and you were off training. That I remember me, I was a bit older, and it was tough on me. But what's it like being a teenager and doing all that? Like when you started to kind of go out of your way more than other people would go out of their way to start
So
chasing the sport that you like.
we were doing opposites. So you would have been coming back and I would have been going off. So like I would have done my school like you, but I would be probably passing you on the boat to go to Portsmouth to the track to be coached. So I don't know, like it was just, I just felt that was normal. I haven't got anything special to say about it. My friends never said to me like, what are you doing? I'm like, just going training, but they always knew I was sporty, so it was just like part and parcel of what I did. And you know, it was
I
just,
remember thinking to myself, it was different. I was like, wow, this kid is doing something different than other kids. And I don't want to say that I predicted that you were going to be in the Olympics, but even way back then, I thought this young person's got something in them that's going to elevate them. You know, you could see it, I suppose, in just that the fact that you're doing these things of getting on a boat and going training and coming back and like I said, I found it hard even at that age. So I can't imagine what it's like to start showing that kind of determination then.
I think because from the age of 13 I was doing that, and by the way I had a couple of jobs going at the same time. I think it just became normality. I think if I was done that 19, 20, 21, I'd probably be like, oh my God, this is a bit weird. This is not right. So, but it just became normality. It's what I needed to do. And the good thing is because I'd always come off the mainland, off the Isle of Wight to go to the mainland for family, it was just normal, getting the boat, it was exciting. I'd either have my bike or get the bus. So it was a little bit of a journey. It's like, oh, I'm traveling, you know, like, and strangely enough, it's like when university came, when all my friends went to university or went to college, I was probably one of the only ones who stayed off the island, and everyone came back. It's just because I just had probably a sense of adventure. I just wanted to get out there. I never really wanted to go back. So I think it was just my opportunity just to get off and stay off, because the island is quite, you know, that it's quite consuming. Everyone knows your business, everyone knows each other. You can't get away with murder there. Not that you want to, but like, you know, it was just quite an insular place, and I think it was just an escape. And it was just normal. And then it probably became strange when I actually went to university and I didn't have to get a boat to training because I was in West London. So it was like, oh, training is just 2 minutes away. I don't have to get a boat, a bus, a train, a bike. So it was like, oh.
So was that the time when you left the island? Was that the time when you were like, I'm going to be an Olympic athlete, or was it before that? When was when was that decision or this mindset made where you're going to fully dedicate your life to your profession as an athlete?
So if I just go back, so I never said to myself I was going to be an Olympic athlete. I watched the 88 games, so I was overwhelmed by that. So I was 11. So I just want to go there, I want to be there. And that's probably the only recognition of an Olympics I had. I watched 92 games where Olympic Christie won the gold in Barcelona. It was amazing, but never really said to myself, I want to be an Olympic athlete. And it probably wasn't until Atlanta 96. So I would have been 19. I was like, I really probably want to go to the Olympics, but I was at university then doing netball and athletics and obviously pretending to study. You do what you do at university, and having a good time, jolly good time. And even then I wasn't serious. I didn't know how it really worked, how it happened, because I wasn't necessarily around people who had been there. So I'm somebody who can kind of, if I'm around people who are high achieving or people, you know, good people, I will kind of bounce off them and take their energy and see what they're doing and take that and do something with it. And it probably really wasn't until I left uni, even though I went to a brilliant sports college, it wasn't really until I left that I really need what I needed to do. So I was mid-20s easily, like, and I was like, well, you know, it was just because an opportunity arose in front of me and took it. So as a child, I wasn't necessarily around big achievers. I was inspired, but not necessarily inspired to know how to get there. I didn't know how to get there. I thought I did and I didn't. And then, yeah, and there would probably been an opportunity where I didn't make it because I could have gone down an easier enough route because I was going to join the police. So it was like after college. So I didn't know really. I just needed to be around people, or at least somebody who could take me on that journey. So there was obviously key people along the way. Until I met that key person, I didn't know how it was possible.
Well, that's a perfect 20 minutes. So we'll end that first period here, and I know how we're going to start the second period with meeting that key person. So let's take a quick little break. When you were watching ice hockey on the Isle of Wight, did you ever see what the players were doing between the breaks, intermissions? Or would you go off?
No, didn't used to go into back into your change room.
Into your change room. I would go into the change rooms, but you know what? Back then, there'd be a couple of guys that would pop out the back door and have a cigarette.
Well, yeah,
yeah,
of course I did.
Could you imagine that happening nowadays? Like popping outside for a cigarette and a coffee?
But does that happen now? I'm sure no, it might do.
No, I think things have changed an awful lot over the 30 years. Like I'm sure even in all sport, things have changed. Like just the way people look after their bodies and how serious they take stuff. But it was a different breed of hockey player back then.
Yeah, I mean, rugby it is professional, but it isn't. There's still a lot of social aspects of drinking, like massive drinking and going out and enjoying themselves, where you don't necessarily see that in any other professional sport. So they do a lot of, where an athlete would do their full season in any sport, like whether it's, I said, it's January to October, and then that off season they'll go out and enjoy themselves for a month or so, then go back into training for the next season. Rugby, they're drinking every week, every month, and then they play for England, or they play for their club at the top level. So it's like some sports continue to do that, like rugby do.
Okay, that's interesting. We could talk about that in a bit. Let's start the second period. Okay, let's start the second period. I'm gonna do the puck drop, and I want to know. Let's start off with who is that person that you met that got you on that path to being an Olympian.
So when I was at uni, I was in 1996. I was in between coaches because I was at university. I'd linked up with somebody in London. And then there was somebody who came who was just a coach. He was from Birmingham. I was competing in Bedford, and he just probably took pity on me, liked me, started speaking to my mum. Oh, who's your daughter? It's Kelly. Yeah, I've seen her in English schools, which is an event that runs from the age of 13 to 18, and I've always been first or second at the English schools. So I've been always like very, very good national level, but never then made the next jump to international. He goes, oh, she's got lots of ability, she's just not fast enough. He goes, where's she from? Like, as in, where's she at college? And he goes, oh, she's at West London. He goes, oh, do you reckon she'll be interested in coming to Birmingham or me to coach her? So he goes, well, you need to ask her. And his name was Trevor Marseille. He passed away about 8 years ago now. And he said, he goes, I'd love to coach you. Would you like to come to Birmingham for a weekend? I mean, it sounds a bit strange from a strange man, but like everyone, I kind of knew him, and before he was always in and around, coached lots of people I knew already. And they said, yeah, go for it. He's a really good coach. So then that year I started training with him, and then within like that year, from 96 to 97, I've made a massive jump from being probably ranked 7th or 8th in the country senior to being like top 4, then going to a European under-23 champs. He made a massive difference. I then became like quite more of a prominent athlete in certain events. Like I got faster, jumped further, totals or scores was high, much by 700 points. So I'd made a really big jump. And so then finished uni, and he goes, what do you want to do? I says, I think I can't be in London, I can't afford it. So it's like, well, move to Birmingham, live with me for a bit, find your place, get a job, settle down, and then you can. So I did. So without his help of moving north from London to Birmingham, I wouldn't be here now. It was just that he had that faith in me. And even when things weren't going very well, so this is like 98 now, I was injured, wasn't doing well for about 3 or 4 years. I was shit, like proper shit. Like because I had a new life, I had a new job, I worked in a pub, looking for another job, training but not training properly, but having a well of a time. And then I got a new job, worked for HSBC. Then I started having proper structures in my life. So it was more, 8 till 4 timetable, and and then I could fit my training in. And then in like 2 or 3 years into that, then my athletics really took off. I made a really big step. Went to the Commonwealth Games, in 2002. But that's how good I was going to be. And he says, and Trevor was like, we need some help here. So I'd been with Trevor for 4 years. We just needed some help, guidance from someone who knew how to make the next step. So that's when he spoke to my next coach, who was Charles van Commenee, a Dutch coach who had previously guided Denise Lewis to the Olympic gold in 2000. So we got him on board to help Trevor, and then within a year, things started to really took shape. I got enough points to go on funding, and that was in 2003. And then Trevor, bless his soul, made the brave decision to say he couldn't take me any further. And that's quite hard for someone to say that when he's taken me like from here to here. And that doesn't happen very much in sport, because people like to travel with that athlete to get the adulation and success that the athlete gets. But he goes, but Charles can take you to the next step. And he was happy to kind of hand me to the next person. So without like Trevor's intervention in 1996, just seeing somebody who wasn't the best, but could see the potential, was like, that was a massive turning point. If I hadn't gone to that competition that day, or he hadn't gone, really, would I be talking to you now? So it's like, it's just that one moment in time, is it? Sliding doors.
Sliding doors.
Yeah, sliding doors. And I truly believe in that. That I think if something was meant to be, this is me being my like, woo, it will always happen. It will find a way. It might be a different way.
How did that relationship make you feel? Like, I know obviously he guided you as a coach, but do you remember how it made you feel, like with like working at HSBC, working in pubs, like doing all these jobs, not really feeling a connection until maybe this man started to believe in you? And I want to know how it felt.
You're gonna laugh now. So he became like my father figure. So like what I obviously didn't have as a child, he became that person, because you genuinely need someone to believe in you. And I'm not saying my mum never did. I don't necessarily think she knew how to. So I'm probably giving her a great injustice here, but like, if she wasn't really shown, how is she going to show me? And she had a really tough upbringing, so as all her brothers and sisters did, as they did in their 50s and 60s. So like, weren't shown the love or probably the way that they should have been. So how is she going to show me? But he did. And so we had a much of a father-daughter relationship. So, he's like, yeah, go and get that job, do this, do that, go and find your way in life. But in the back of my mind, I knew all these jobs weren't for life. And it was just weird. It was like, I'm not going to be here forever. This is just here to serve a purpose till I get to this. And it did. Like, I was at HSBC for 4 years. I had my pub job for 2 years, HSBC for 4 years. And it served a purpose. It got me to be able to then, dedicate my time full time to sport. So, but he was definitely very influential in my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and still until he passed away in 2014, he was still very much part of my life. So yeah, absolutely owed him. I owe him everything, if I'm honest.
So would you say then your identity as an athlete would have became a truth to you much later on in life than a lot of people?
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, like I never went professional till I was 27. And for that, I feel quite blessed because a lot of athletes make that decision when they're late teens, early 20s. They haven't really lived life. I was fortunate to have lived life, been in various cities, places, education, jobs. So I already had, I feel, the grounding of richness. Then I could be humble. And because I came from nothing, it didn't matter if I lost everything. So so now, you know, things I've achieved, I'm just happy that I own a house. I don't care. Got you know, a bag full of medals, but I'm just glad that I have more than I started my life with. So I feel fortunate, but that's from my own doing. But it's just because fortunate people fell into my life at the right time.
So you got that bag of medals within, 10, 12 years, I imagine, right?
Yes, really. From 2004, all my medals came from 04 to 2011. So within like 8 seasons, 7 seasons, won all my medals. So a lot less time, really. 9 medals. So
how was it getting how was it getting that bag of medals? What were how did it feel? How did it feel collecting these along the way? And then how did it shape, the Kelly, not the Kelly now, but the Kelly in your kind of early 30s?
Yeah, I was a bit of an arsehole then. You know what it's like when you're a sports person. Bit of an ego, but you have to kind of.
You try to say I was an asshole?
You've already admitted you were. But you have to be in some respect. When people are really nice, come on. Like there has to be elements of your ego that is, you have to be a bit of a megalomaniac sometimes. You have to.
How are you an asshole?
Just because I wanted what I wanted, but I was perceived as that. So when people tell you enough that you believe you are, right? So, I was a diva for a period. When I won my first medal, the Olympic medal, I did become a diva until my physio, Neil, sadly, he died a couple of years ago, told me to shut the F up. And I was like, okay. And it was like, yes, okay, Kelly, you need to stop demanding because you've won an Olympic medal. So, but then, so that was a lesson learned. Never made that mistake again. But I would have made mistakes, not that one. But it was just collecting these little medals along the way. It was just part of vindication of what I'd give, what I'd been aiming for all my life. I suppose you don't really know what you're aiming for in life until you actually get what you're aiming for. Does that really make sense? Like, I wasn't necessarily looking to win all these medals, but they came as part and parcel of me enjoying my hobby and being good and being one of the best athletes in the world for 6 or 7 years. It was just a consequence. I was having a great time, getting paid for it, living the life that most people only ever dream of, really. I was just
what is that? What is that life? What is that life what were like? What is that life that people dream about? Explain it.
Being good at something, and being really good at it without, obviously there's a lot of effort and hard work physically and especially mentally. But being able to just show it and be good and show the rest of the world what you're good at. And then I suppose in my day, and I can say that because it is literally 2 decades ago it all started, it was great to get on the TV, get in the paper, be on the radio, people to be able to talk to you, recognise you in the street because I'd seen you on Question of Sport or seen you in the paper when no social media was around, but people knew who you were. So, and that was kind of nice. I mean, I was still getting the bus up until 2006 because I didn't learn to drive. So this is a Commonwealth champion Olympic medalist getting the bus to the track to train. Why hasn't she learned to drive? Because I've never learned to drive. And and when I did, obviously change things, but it was just, I was just fortunate to live out other people's probably wildest dreams. Like, how many people get to live their dreams? But I never really had this dream as a child. But I know a lot of people don't have their real dreams probably until they see maybe when they see, I mean, let me just go back. Like when I see other people, I hear other people, all my friends say, oh, I knew Kelly Sotherton, I used to beat her. I could have been as good as her. And I don't even know who you are. Like my friends would say this, oh, my friend knows you. She used to beat you. Did she? Who's this? I said, oh, she could have been as good as you. Well, she wasn't. Because she didn't have this. So so I'd say that, well, I don't remember, but people will start saying they don't really realize what their dreams are until they see other people living them out. Maybe, oh, you know, I really wish I could have done that. It's just, I suppose it's risk taking, high risk, you know, big risk taker, and if you don't take risks, you're not going to get the rewards, and equally obviously you can fail, so which we've all done.
So are the risks putting yourself out there then? Are the risks taking the chances?
Yeah, you have to take a chance, take opportunities, not shy away from opportunities. And you know, I have a really good friend, Julie, who was a much better athlete than me at the time. We both went to the Olympics. She went to the 2008 one, which is great to go with one of your best friends to the Olympics. It's brilliant. And she was far ahead of me all the way up until 2003. She got everything. She got the funding. She was really good, and I just like, I was a bit jealous. And but I'm the one who made it, because I think the opportunity was presented to me of a coach and a situation, and I just ran with it. Like I'm not going to get this opportunity again. And then I absolutely sprinted past her basically, and she's left here and I'm here, not for the want of trying, but I just think that was mentality. And I think once a door opens, you kind of have to really run through it and not fear the consequence. And even today, like, I would not fear the consequence. I don't think about, I am a pessimist in some respect, I'm a realist. But yeah, it's when an opportunity, not knowing what the outcome could be, you just take it, because you know what's worse than where you are now. Like you might just end up in the same place. So I always thought, ultimately, if I invest money into myself for my athletics, which I did in 2003, I went to LA for 6 weeks to train with another coach, warm weather training. Like it cost me like £3,500, and people, that's not that much money, but it is if you haven't got it. So I spent all my savings that I'd saved for my job, and I thought, well, I'm either going to have no money or something's going to happen. And obviously that was a good investment because it set me on my way. But yeah, it's taking the opportunity that presents itself. You might not know it's an opportunity at the time, but like something new came and I just took that risk, not knowing. It's just not knowing the outcome, and people are scared of not knowing the consequence or the outcome of a situation. They'd rather know what would happen. I really, you know, I'd like to know, but like, let's go and see what happens, because it could take you somewhere else, you know. So that's why that's why I'm quite a risk taker.
You talked about consequences they took on your body, and you pointed at your head. So I imagine you mean the consequences mentally, right?
Yeah.
What were the consequences mentally of being as good on the world stage in athletics as you were?
When you're good, obviously. But you have to you know, say everyone's the same on the line. It's just the mentality of the person on the line. That's not quite true, because obviously there's people who are physically more gifted than others, but it is a mentality. And it's not necessarily who wants it most, it's who puts themselves out there most to risk reward. But yeah, so it's all good when it's going well, but when it doesn't go well, it can take a toll. And anybody who watches sport on the TV and sees people not playing well, or they're injured, or they're down, like the mental toll on sports people is humongous, because you put your body through the line day in, day out. Most of us never compete fully healthy. If you're healthy, I think there's something wrong with you. If you're healthy, there's always something, whether it's
the beginning of the season.
Yeah. There's always something. So you're always getting over something. So going through an injury, like I did at the back end of my career, which kind of wiped my whole career out, was really mentally tough. But in 2010, 2011, we weren't talking mental health. It wasn't a thing. You just got over it. Well, you know, get on with it. Like now, if you're injured, you get wrapped up in cotton wool, rightly so, but you know, and then you get looked after, you get signposted, you get supported, you get asked, are you okay? You didn't get that 15 years ago. So so now it's people care about the person now, and then athlete later. So it's person orientated, where it was all athletic, athlete, and then the person wasn't even considered.
So what was the most challenging part mentally out of those years of success? Because I wanted, like, where I started to hear about you, like I saw you, I watched you in the Olympics, but when I started to hear about you was when you were angry. You were angry about systems, and it came across like you were angry Kelly, we didn't talk over the phone or anything. This was just my perception of hearing you on the radio or on TV. And that was over not being able to collect a bronze medal because of cheating, right?
Yeah.
So how did that? I keep thinking that's a pivotal part in your life, and you said, Nick, it isn't so much anymore. But I suppose I want to know what that did to you.
So when I left the sport, obviously, so 2008, I lost 2 medals. I didn't lose 2 medals. I was 4th and 4th at the time. Retrospectively, I was 3rd and 3rd, and found out 8 to 10 years later. And when I left the sport in 2012 and I retired, then I was very bitter. I really didn't enjoy my sport. I hated it. I didn't want to see any success. So it kind of left, like, everything I had achieved in those previous decades, or actually my whole life, I just felt, was it worth it? But I know I'm still passionate about my sport, but I just didn't want to see other people get success, because I felt like I'd missed out. So I was always going to be bitter until I had some retribution, really, until the real result came out. And I am mighty lucky, very lucky, I feel. Some people, you're not lucky, Kelly, but like, you're lucky because these people got found out just in time for me to retrospectively get the result that I deserved. And I'm really interested to see, if I'd ended my career with those medals all intact at the time, how my mindset would have been over the last 10 years and where my life would have gone. Because, yeah, I was quite angry. I was disappointed, probably deeply unhappy. I had a lot of resentment for various things. And it wasn't really until I got my medals in 2018, kind of that just went away and dispersed. It was quite weird. I relaxed a lot, and actually a lot of things changed when I got medals. My relationship for 10 years basically ended. My job situation changed. It was quite pivotal. So this was in 2018. So lots of things in my life really changed, all at the same time. And yeah, actually probably for good, it was a good thing. Like, lots of positivity, there was lots even though there was negativity, I just focused on, wow, now I am one of the most successful female track and field athletes ever, and will always be that. So and then my mindset just changed. I was easier going, less, I'm still a bit of an arse sometimes, I'm still direct, I still say the wrong thing at times, that's me, that's my nature, that's how I'll always be. But it's just more relaxed, more fun, loving, and whatever. It relaxed me. So for those like previous 6 or 7 years, 8 years, no, 10 years, sorry. I think my life would have been different. But I don't, like I said, you don't know in hindsight. You just don't know like what it would have been. But yeah, I let go of that bitterness. My body just went, thank God, got what you deserved. And there's many people out there who will never get what they deserved, and I just feel fortunate that I did.
What a great way to end the second period. We'll head into our second intermission. I wonder what you would be doing in the intermission if you were an ice hockey player. If you would have been outside having a cigarette and a coffee, or stretching and having the physio work on your body and stuff.
Did you have a physio? Did you have a physio at Raiders?
We did. A lovely guy named Ted Chappell. And do you remember Ted?
Yes, Ted.
Yeah. And I think he went to an Olympics as either a physio or a coach a long time ago. But yeah, he was, and Ivor Ambridge, I don't know if you remember him, but he played online with me, and Ivor just hogged Ted. He just always had Ted working on his legs, so no one could get the bench. It was just Ivor's bench. So He was
Christ.
the only one getting physio the whole time. Yeah,
Ice hockey.
yeah.
Oh, they were good times. Oh
They
my
were.
God. They
They
were.
were.
I do miss them. I used to travel when I was even at uni. I remember going to Guildford actually. I took some of my friends to Spectrum to watch Guildford Flames. What year that one? What, 96, 97?
Yeah, I was playing for them then.
Yeah, I think you were. Like, I thought, oh, I know something. But yeah, we went, got the train from West London. It was really cool. So they were like, oh, we love this. I said, yeah, I think we were meant to go on to, because we have Slough near us. But I said, don't go to Slough, let's go. I've been to Slough, let's go to Guildford. It's much better ring. Like, so much nicer. So yeah.
All right, Kelly. So let's head into the third period. Let's drop the puck. And I'm gonna say when you said when you said you got those medals, you know, a few years after they were meant to be awarded to you, it actually put a little tear in my eye. Like I was just like you know, you just went, Nick, and I got those medals, and that to me really brought up an emotion of, you know, this teenage kid on a boat going to training and coming back and doing this stuff and getting a life and working in pubs and working at HSBC and trying to get a career in this and really trying to figure stuff out, you know, to be given the gift of a mentor in Trevor that can, you know, give you that love, right? That
Yeah,
that'll
yeah.
hold his arms around you and say, let's get you to where you can be. And what a humble, beautiful man to be able for him to be able to say, you know, it's time that you go off and you do this, you know. And then when you and I'm listening to your story and I know your story and I know you, and then when you said you got those medals, it really I felt it. I can't even imagine what it was like for you to get that phone call, you know, to say that you're being awarded the bronze medal. And what was the story? So the story, it was
Well, I didn't get a phone call. It was on Twitter.
okay. Well, when you found out that how many what it was the what was it what it was the one bronze medal in the heptathlon, right?
It was the 4x4 was first. That
Right.
came December 2016. I found that out, and then in April of 2017, I was in the training camp because I was coaching at the time in Florida. Found out through a direct message in my Twitter, and then it was on social media, and it was a massive news day. I had thousands of messages, literally from everywhere, like Kelly, you're going to get a bronze, 100%. But that process just took such a long time because it was going through CAS, like Court of Arbitration of Sport. That just takes forever, and then once that's done, it takes 6 months for the verdict and report to come out. I don't know why it takes so long. So yeah, so you find this out not from your federation or your governing body, just through journalism, through leaks, and then you just have to just wait. So you're not guaranteed that you're going to get a medal. But if they're never going to give me a medal, there would have been a riot. Because first of all, our 4x4 girls, I don't care about me. I've got an Olympic medal, but there's two of them who had never got an Olympic medal, like Marilyn Okoro, Nicola Sanders, me and Chrissy O. We've got medals. We've been there, done that. That's great. But these girls haven't. So like they're getting it. And then if my HEP medal doesn't come, I'm going to be absolutely like going to the IOC and not banging their door. I will like literally get a tank. Like I want my medal. Like you better give it to me because I'm going to cause. I will be not a thorn. I will be like a full-on assault rifle in the side, and I will not stop firing until you give me my medal. So, but fortunately, very good people at the BOA, Jan Peterson especially. It all happened, and I got them in two brilliantly lovely ways. So very different to how I would have got them. Interestingly, though, Nick, I was asked if I'd want to get my medals in Tokyo in 2020 in the Olympic Stadium. If I'd have said yes, I probably would have only got my medals last year because obviously the pandemic. So I chose the right decision to stay at home and get them as soon as possible.
And then you know, we're coming to the end of your career. London 2012 is coming up. You get hit with some injuries, and you start phasing out of being, you know, an Olympian to the life that you live today. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about your kind of the phase from from ending your athletic career to where you are today?
As most sports people do, they do a bit of media work, you know that one. We all do that. We all think we're going to be the greatest commentator or pundit. I did work for media for about a year and a half, up until the end, about 2014, bits and bobs. And then because I have a passion of having something to say and making sure things are done right, I did some governance courses. And fortunately, a really good person at my federation nominated me for some certain courses for UK sport, and I got to meet some really great people. Then I started to get on boards. I was coaching at the time, so I worked with young athletes in the age group, so under 20, under 23 downwards, championships, started coaching, becoming pretty good at it. But it wasn't my passion. But the governance thing was something I really wanted to do. So one of the key things I wanted to do, which I never really had as an athlete, was a voice, to have a channel of where I could direct my voice to, so I'd be heard appropriately without shouting. So I set up a commission for the athletes at British Athletics, and that's still going well today. And then I was team coaches at the championships, at Commonwealth Games, but I really wanted to be more instrumental in administration in sport. So I got the team leaders job for the Commonwealth Games for England athletics. So that was for nearly 3 years. That was a great opportunity and experience, a massive learning curve, completely 180 the way I thought about working with people and people development. I became quite a red yellow person to a blue green person, so like complete where I more empathetic, listen to people. There were some people probably I could have listened better to, let's be honest, but majority of the time I thought about what people required, what they wanted, how best they would perform, which I wouldn't have really cared about before. And I had a really great experience, became the most successful team leader in athletics in Commonwealth Games. We won the most medals ever in athletics, beat the previous total by 5. So even though but I can only focus on the things I didn't do as well. And so as you do, if you're a high functioning person, high performer, you only really look at the things that didn't go well. So 75% of it went brilliantly, brilliant people, and there's a quarter of them were like, could have done that better. And that's the thing that does fester. Because I left that job, there's nothing I can really do about the 25%. So I'm in another job now, developing coaches in the potential talent space in 46 different sports. So I work for Sport England. So obviously moved on to developing people and making things, helping people to be the best version of them. And so that supports our talent in sport. So hopefully we'll see some really good things that I'm putting in place now in 10 years time maybe, and we'll see some future Olympic champions in Brisbane and 32 and past there. But yeah, so that's what I do now. So like it's kind of gone from where I didn't really care about people, I really care about people what they do in high sport, because I think what I missed out in is people truly caring about the person. And it sounds like it's a bit soft, and when I hear it, I'm like, oh god, it sounds a bit like, oh, we should talk about the person then the athlete. And it really is true, it's the person and the athlete. And then I've just been to a UK sport conference this week, and it was one of the rugby players, actually two of the rugby league and rugby union. So Mike Brown, he used to play for Quins in England, and there was a rugby league guy, I can't remember his name. They both talked about the very same in team sports, and you'd recognise this. They have both been coached where it was the athlete first, person second. So it just didn't work necessarily. And once they got a good coach in place or a good leader in place that understood the person, and then the athlete came after, things changed for them. They become better athletes because coach or leader understood them. It was just kind of like, it is all about the person. Think about the person in front of you, make that, and then give them what they need and help them be the best version, and then you'll get the result of an athlete or an outcome. So
how would you now, talking and learning this person-centered approach, which you actually just went, you're I'm not saying you're struggling with it, but it's new because you were so Kelly focused, right?
Yeah.
And how would now Kelly talk to Kelly in her kind of late 20s, you know, just getting ramped up for being at the prime of her athletic career, how would you talk to her now?
In the same way I was spoken to, strangely. Like, so if somebody would have gone back, and well, a lot of people would have spoken to my coach, especially Charles, only Charles, the way that he spoke to me, people would have perceived that as bullying, you know, because it was like, boom, he was Dutch, straight down the line, you know. And I was like, well, that's what I needed. If that wouldn't have cut, that's what I needed at that point of time. If it was being like, oh, you know, Kelly, you know, you just like, you know, it's okay. I probably would have been all right, but I just needed a hard line. And I said that there is a fine balance of that hard line and not, and it's what the people, how I, you know, it's like people perceive something different when they see it, but if they're not in it, it's something different, if that makes sense. And I was really fortunate, like Trevor and my other coach, Aston, who ended my career with me, they were very, very more caring people. And I think it's because they were both fathers. So, they had a way of speaking and understanding, where Charles wasn't a dad. It was a boom, you know. He was very different leader, very all different leaders, but there was at the beginning and the end of my career, there was more of a holistic approach. And I suppose I'd have a balance of both, but I still would toe the hard line. I would still give myself a kick up the arse the hard way, because I knew that's what was required. And I think probably then in my 30s, I would have been a little bit more softer.
And so describe like the kick in the ass and describe softer.
Just a no stone unturned approach from the tough love, you know, real direct tell culture. There was no choice. I had to do what was said and done on a piece of paper. If I hadn't done it, or I didn't do it in the way that this person liked, they would go and walk off and say, I didn't care, I wasn't passionate about it. So, you know, you're made to feel guilty about not wanting it as much as the coach. Whereas the softer approach is like, you bring your own motivation to training, you bring your best to training, and I will just give you the other skills, the technical skills to draw your talent out and make it better. So one of them, and it was the way that somebody spoke to you, in a tone, in a way, if you know what I mean. So, but each one was right at the right time. And I think if it was any different, I think it would have affected how I would have gone on in my career. Now, don't get me wrong, like the hard approach, I'd rather someone just go boom to me, like that's me. But I know 99% of people cannot take that kind of approach. And I think now, actually, probably someone was a bit of an arsehole to me, I'd be like, oh, okay. Like that I'd probably revert. Whereas now I'd probably take an intake of breath and just think about it for a minute, and then realise what it actually meant, where it came from, and understood where it came from. It came from a good place, just came out wrong. Does that make sense?
It does. And I think as you're speaking, like, it really makes me think that an athlete is a person and they all have different characteristics. And I think the role of a coach and a mentor and managers are to get the best out of the athlete. And I think it's what you said, it's about taking this holistic approach about being, you know, tough. This is what Tough Through Tender is all about, you know, being tough and resilient building, but also being able to enable an athlete to process emotions, because I think this is the bit that is untapped. And I think that, you know, when you talked about, and you did point mental, physical, like this thing is all connected. And I believe to let an athlete fulfill their potential, it's all got to flow. It's all got to be worked and in sync. And you can't just be ripping the body up and not considering the emotions and the feelings of a person. Also, the fact that a person is bringing a lot of stuff onto the track that they're coming from home with or from work with. And I think that the more coaches become aware of the fact that athletes could have some traumas in their life, they could have, you know, abuse happening, stuff's happening in people's lives. And I think that this is the bit where I'm really hoping that coaches can start to bring into the training and the lifestyle of athletes now. And I'm as you said, it's something that you guys are all considering right now and bringing into your line of work.
Yeah, it's like, it's getting a measured approach, really, because not one way fits all, and and people need different stimuluses at certain times. And especially in sport, if you want to be the best, it's going to be hard. And the people then delivering the coaching to the athletes, for instance, it is the one who's got the strongest mentality will always come through, and there will be a hard line. It's just how it's delivered, because if you didn't have that hard line, honestly, there's no other country in the world that's gonna give a soft line to somebody. They want to be the best, and there are just ways of doing it that are better, and we shouldn't forget that, because one thing I'm pretty big on is that you never hear of the best athletes in the world complain about how they got there. It might not always seem appropriate to some people in terms of how the coaching was delivered, but you don't. And that's quite a controversial thought process, I think. And so you do hear of there are things that aren't right when there's abuse and it goes too far. There are, but we just need to now. It's like, otherwise coaching will be over. You won't be able to coach because everyone will just complain about a coach shouting at an athlete. But there just needs to be a level of understanding between coaches and athletes. What's acceptable? What can you take? But it's the coach knowing the person. So it goes back to coach the person. What gets the best out of them? Is it a rub on the back, or is it a kick up the arse? It's one, or is it both, but at appropriate times? So
and I agree with you. Like, language, the tonality of language is important, but I think the words are probably more important. I think this is something that I'm learning right now in my kind of, as I start way at the bottom of level 1 coaching in ice hockey, that when I start coaching some under 10s and under 13s, I go straight into what my coaches were like back in Saskatchewan in Canada, right? Where they were like, they'd pick you out of the line if you were talking. They'd make fun of you. They would yell at you. They would use words like stop your whining. Don't cry. There's no crying in ice hockey. And they would use really quite harsh, aggressive language, homophobic slurs, as a way to say you're being weak. And those words won't come out of my mouth, but I will raise my voice too loud to the point where it scares kids. And I've seen it, I've done it. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that was my old coach. And I see these little kids' eyes like, oh, I was looking up to this guy. Now I'm scared of him. And that was heartbreaking for me, Kelly, because I don't want these kids to be scared of me. I want them to have fun. But what I'm in this mode of is like trying to unlearn some of these things that are almost intrinsically woven into my fabric as a human being, because I was coached at a young level to play good ice hockey. Yeah. And so, like, do you recognize this as a challenge with coaches of trying to unlearn some of the things that were actually creating trauma when we're trying to help?
Yeah, so when I first coached, I was a bit of a dick, and you start learning to not coach you. So you're coaching them how you were coached, because that's what happens, and I can hear it straight away. But I think it does take a couple of years, and then you'll find your way. It's knowing how you want to be spoken to. But I think everybody who's been in a sport and then they come back to coaching, it's how they've been coached, and the first few traits will always be how you've been coached. And then you don't necessarily go out to be that person, but it just happens. And then as long as you check yourself, like it took me about 2 years, and I realized I'm an arsehole, because my other coach, Charles, was an arsehole. I was either very caring or a dickhead. So I was a contradiction. So it's like,
how did that make you feel? How did it make you feel when you said I'm being an ass?
Oh, comfortable.
What's that? Comfortable?
I'm quite comfortable, but like, so now could still be an arse, and I would be. I just do it in a different way, and I laugh. So probably a bit passive aggressive. But I think coaching is slightly passive aggressive, in a way, because it's parenting is passive aggressive in a way, isn't it? So it's from my experience. So like, you're just delivering information, being like an evil laughing. But it's just it's what you say and how you say it, and coaching isn't nice. But yeah, I think most athletes, ex-athletes, will resonate with what you've just said if they go into coaching. I definitely do. And now I'm completely the opposite. So hard, not to say harsh, hard, but fair.
Yeah. I think firm on instructions and making sure that they understand what you're trying to deliver to them. But then also, you know, like I listened to a guy say that, you know, he looks at the kids' eyes to see when they're smiling. And that's what's fulfilling him as a coach. It's not necessarily whether or not they do the drill right. It's like when they crack a little smile on their face, when they skate around a cone, really tight, fall over. It's the falling over that made it. And he's like, I'm not going to give them heck. You know, they're trying. And but you know, I suppose that is the difference about playing sport for a fun level and then playing sport at the level where you achieved. And I'm wondering now, Kelly, at 46 years old, did you ever have a chance to kind of say goodbye to, you know, 2011, 2012 athlete, you know, injured, no longer able to compete as an athlete, and that identity as Kelly Sotherton, Olympic medalist and Commonwealth champion? Did you ever have a chance to say, okay, she's a part of my past, and now I'm 46 and I'm kind of filling these new shoes and I've found this new purpose in life?
First of all, stop saying my age. I'm really 36. What you mean?
You said your age earlier when we were talking about how old. Yeah.
Well, Wikipedia page is wrong by 10 years. I think when I got my 2 Olympic medals, I think that was the end of my career. I mean, I could have got another one up until last year, so it's definitely done now. Because I think we should have got a medal from 2011 and should be a gold from the 4x4 Europeans. Russia won, but that definitely was our gold medal. But it's done now, so it's definitely 100% done. And it was when I got that last medal in the end of 2018. It was like a vindication. This is it. This is my career completed. Can't complain. Cannot complain. You know, 3 of my medals are Olympics medals. Every Olympics I've been to, I've won every event I've done at Olympics. I've won a medal. Not everyone can say that. Only a few. So I feel mighty. That's when I felt a sense of achievement. That I like, actually my career was good. I didn't need to complain and moan about anything over the last 10 years. My injury maybe it was worth it. So then so it was 2018, even though I finished in 2012, I'd probably said goodbye to Kelly athlete Kelly 2018. However, once an Olympian, you're always an Olympian. So it's, you'll always be that. You know, but still won a medal because I got an MBE the following year. So it's like I'm still collecting. But then it was postponed because of COVID. So I only got it like a year ago. So still collecting medals, just in a different vein. But yes, 2018 was the last time that athlete Kelly, she ended there. So she had a mighty long career. So
are you excited about new Kelly and the roles that you're doing now and the success coming off the Commonwealth Games and, you know, getting to work in London and in buildings that get locked down?
Canary Wharf. Yeah, but I mean, it's a different nerve and different nervousness and different challenge. It's a different excitement, meeting new people. You know, I'm still having an input in the success of our sporting success in Great Britain, even in the lower down the chain. Doesn't give me probably the same buzz as always being an athlete, but I don't think anything compares to that. And it's just getting used to that. But I have it over the years. But yeah, it's just another challenge. It's just a new challenge. And working for someone like Sport England, it's vast. It's vast. It's getting to know people all over again. It's exciting but scary. So it's a massive challenge. I hope, you know, I really do hope I make a difference somewhere. And even if I affect something and there's a really good outcome, I probably won't know what that outcome is because I may be gone somewhere else by then. But, you know, like I'm setting seeds. Hopefully they grow into prosperous like plants and fruits. And so it's exciting. It's just a new challenge. That's why I don't feel like I'm 46. It's because I'm now having a career in something else, which I've done for the last 4 years, in completely something else. So I've been fortunate. So I say I keep being fortunate. You make your own luck. So, but you just got to be in the right place.
I think you're an amazing person who's got amazing experience to pass on to not just the athletes, but coaches, managers, coordinators. I hope they reap from your experience that you've accumulated over the years, and I think you're going to fulfill an amazing role, Kelly. So,
Oh, thank you.
yeah, I'm
Not
really
everyone
happy.
would say that. I know that for a fact.
Well,
But
I know this. I know you're softening up, and that's not a bad thing. And I
no
know
problem.
you're also extremely determined. So I think there's only huge success coming your way.
Oh, let's see. Let's see.
Let's end the third period. There. Okay, end of the third period. Let's end of the game. I'm going to do a quick little overtime thing because there's something that you said right at the very, very beginning. And I wonder about a life of an athlete, you know, someone who grew up on the Isle of Wight and was so determined and had like, you know, gone through so much to where you got to. But and you said as a child that you didn't mind the loneliness and that you actually, it was a safe space for you, I suppose.
Mhm.
Um, but then you said it's different today. And I'm wondering, I'm going to ask you, like, does loneliness creep into your life today? And how does that affect, like, is it uncomfortable compared to 6 or 7 year old Kelly?
Oh my God, I start crying. I think COVID made a massive play in being lonely because by yourself, and if anybody's single, they would know because I just started a new job. I just been out of a relationship of like 9, 10 years, and like, you know, 18 months down the line, still single in a house, you know, for like four months by yourself. And I think that wasn't helpful because even though I love my own space, I really like to go and meet people. So that I make that decision, but that was taken away from everybody. And I think now that the effects of that have kind of like as much as I love my own company, I'd rather be with other people. And I really feel that I really notice that when I'm with people, have a great time, or even if I don't have a great time, and I come home and it's quiet, and I'd rather be with people now. And I think it's because when you're an athlete, especially in an individual sport, you, even though you have a team around, you are very much on your own. And as a child, you just went out and played and you could just get up to mischief. But I can't just walk out the house. As soon as you walk out the house, it costs 10 quid. So it's like, what do you do? Like, what do you do? So you become lonely. Not like this is like a killer. You know, you go down a rabbit hole of doom on your phone. You know, society can make you very lonely, even though when it appears that you're not. So, and my friends don't live around here; they all live all around the country. So it's like, you know, it does become a little bit. I suppose I feel like I'm on an island, back on the island here. I'm never going back to the Isle of Wight. But yeah, so it's finding a way out of that really. And I think COVID just basically made that worse, and made me realise I'm not really okay by myself. I don't think anybody really truly is. So as I say that, I'm booking a holiday for myself, going on holiday. So, but I'm okay with that because I've made that decision. So yeah, I'd rather have people around
Mm.
or going somewhere.
I know, like, my life really changed when I was 45. I got sober, and I felt like I had so much time to reflect on, basically, I mean, you could say I pissed up the wall 15 years of my life, you know, from having this amazing career in TV and not excelling the way I could have because I was just so riddled by fear, you know, and I didn't want to put my head above the parapet because I didn't want to get shot off because I couldn't handle rejection and fear of failure. And I think it was just this kind of humbling thing of just realizing that there was a purpose for me out there. And it was just a little thing, that my purpose wasn't being a broadcaster. It wasn't being a hockey player. It's actually that I was really well designed to help men like me um, find some connection again. I've got really good at it. And it took me 4 years of doing that to look in the mirror after, you know, I was 49 years old, and I looked in the mirror and I finally said, Nick, I'm proud of you. After 49 years of self-hatred and failures and self-pity, I find, because I'd been of service and I'd helped other people. And it just gave me the sense of pride where I was okay with stuff. And I didn't really, even though I was alone, I didn't feel lonely. And I suppose maybe that is where you are in your career, is this new career that you're, new shoes, right? It's like the athletic shoes are gone, and now you're wearing shoes to work, where you're all of this stuff that you've been through, which is a lot, is going to be used to help other athletes and coaches and even parents create, I don't want to say better athletes, but people who are feel more complete in the sports that they're doing.
Absolutely. It's just, yeah, like you say, they're new shoes. I mean, they're Uggs because it's cold. But yeah, it's fitting new shoes. Yeah, because even though you want people to tread your own path in the way that in the way that you did, you just want them to just, be more rounded, just be more informed, and so they have more choice. They'll have more choices to make. There was no choices. You just went one way, and that there was no deviation. It was that way. Now there's so many different ways. It doesn't matter where you go in sport or life, it will lead hopefully somewhere. So it's just giving people more options, more, and this, like you say, parent, just being more informed. And that's the aim, really. So yeah.
As I said at the end of the third period, I'm very excited for you. I think I really am. I can just feel like this new chapter of your life being extremely fulfilling and beautiful. And yeah, I like it. I'm excited for you.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind of you.
Thanks for joining me, Kelly.
Thanks, Nick.
I really appreciate it.
Oh, that's good.
Okay, we'll end it on the appreciate it. Okay, we good? Are we good?
Yeah, good.
Okay.